Yeah, hey everyone.
Hey.
My name is Eric. I'm the Director of Accounts and Partnerships here. A lot of us have met, and yeah, I farm in Malacca, Minnesota. I'm just here. I'll be in the chat and helpful, but I'm here to hear what y'all have to say and what you're interested in about custom shares.
Awesome. Yeah, so we're here to talk about custom shares, and we are going to take a really deep dive into the details of exactly how this works on GrownBuy, and we'll also set some of the context for why we're doing this. And we'll have lots of time to talk about to answer any questions. Let's remain on mute unless you're asking a question. You can also ask questions in the chat. That's a really good way to do it as we're going, and we'll pick them up and answer them. And yeah, we already talked about the fact that we're recording. So anyone who hasn't introduced themselves in the chat yet, please go ahead and introduce yourselves. Oh, wow, there's another Vermonter in here. Hi, Paige. That's exciting. And yeah, we'll get into it. Anything I'm missing, Kara? Do you want me to take this one, or do you want to take the first one?
Go ahead and take this one.
All right, great. So why are we here? GrownBuy was created, I believe it was I believe we're officially 4 years old now. And GrownBuy came out of the National Young Farmers Coalition organizing. So it was created within the structure of that nonprofit, and always with the intention for GrownBuy to be its own farmer-owned cooperative. And so it spun out of NYFC after some time and became an independent project. Hi, Danielle. Welcome. And we have always existed to serve the needs of farmers. So that's how we came to be. We came to be from a place of not the National Young Farmers Coalition asking this question, like what tools do farmers really need? And CSA management and e-commerce was one of them. But then specifically to customization. So for a long time, we were like, Harvey is doing this, and we do a lot of other things really well. Harvey is doing that really well. And then Harvey decided that they were going to stop doing it. And that was, we heard about it back in October. And so we pretty immediately were like, this is a big opportunity for our cooperative, and it's a big opportunity for us to serve a need that we know exists. And we hear from people who use GrownBuy and don't use GrownBuy that they want customization. So in this workshop, right, in this webinar, we're talking about the Harvey style kind of customization. There are other ways that you can use GrownBuy for customization, and Boxcar Acres, who's on this call, is a great example of that. They've been doing really interesting and innovative things with GrownBuy before this new customization feature set was rolled out. And there's an article linked here that covers kind of the range of options around customization. But yeah, when we heard that Harvey was going to be shutting down, we started to look into what it would mean for us to build something. And we started doing research, talking to farmers, as many Harvey farmers as we could, and just gathering together what we thought that the platform that we could build and should build should be. This is a learning process for us. October was not that long ago. I think we've done a good job of rolling something out that's super functional, that we currently have multiple farms customizing on, and have a lot more signed up to start kind of in the spring with the start of CSA season. But we're learning, and so we're really here to hear feedback, to hear questions, and we want to, we exist to serve farmers, and that's really core in what we do. So let us know how we can do that.
This is just a quick timeline to show that. So in the before times, we didn't do this, and then pretty quickly we kind of started rolling things out. There was sort of a bit of a research phase, but pretty quickly we jumped into working with current farms on an early form of customization. So we've had a couple of this is, I guess, to show that it's moved pretty quickly. And that we've had a couple of sort of trial runs with a number of different farms. So current farms who had a early season share, and Park Ridge Organics, who's on the call today, that had some Thanksgiving shares. And then we have currently Ridge Sharif, Current Farms, and Cedar Crate have all had their customized CSA happening right now. And that we are really working with folks on this call and others to set up farms to be selling in June or May,
Yeah.
but in sort of the more northeastern season. Ridge Sharif is in the British Virgin Islands, which is awesome, and Current is in Louisiana, and Cedar Crate was during a winter share. So those were all the kind of reasons that we had these sort of nice, slow early adopters. Or they weren't slow; they were quite on it, but that we had a light first season.
And those farms that Kara just mentioned are the ones who have actively distributed customized shares. They're also about right now between a half dozen and a dozen farms who are selling shares that will be customized. So that's also ongoing and super exciting. So let's just jump into some of the flow of this and how this actually looks to you and your customers. We're going to start on the customer side. So a customer has signed up for a custom share. You've put your inventory in for that distribution, and then your customization window opens, right? And when your customization window opens, which is at a date and time that you have told us, and we open it for you, customers get an email. They also get a push notification, and if they were to log into GrownBy directly after the open of the customization, then they would see both. You can see this purple banner that shows up on the app and on the desktop, and then also a pop-up. So there are a few different ways that they can kind of know that it's time. And they click on one of these links. So they could click on the purple banner, they could click on this Let's Go link, or they could click on the link in their email. And all of those things bring them to the customization process, which that just breezed by it. Kara, do you want to narrate this video a little bit?
Yeah, I'll narrate this video. All right, so will you go there? Okay, so they click on that button before, it takes them to this screen, and then it customizes their share and it makes a suggested share for them. So it's not necessarily like a written in stone thing. It's like, in this moment, this is the share we suggest for you. It's also based on their preferences, which they can enter above, but maybe this video has already breezed past that part. And then it takes them, if they then, we pause that for a sec. If they
Yes.
then, they have one option that says, looks good to me, and they could click the looks good to me button, and that would put the suggested share into their cart. If they say add or edit products, that keeps that suggested share, like you'll see like 1 or 2, but then it takes them to all of the products that are available in their customizable CSA group page, and they get to choose to add or subtract. So hit play again, and you'll see that the process is pretty simple. It's like, online shopping is made to be pretty easy, so they can kind of add or subtract the items in their cart based on what they're excited about. That might just be like, oh, I would just want to swap out bok choy for carrots, or it might be that I want to take out all of these things and put in a whole new cart full of stuff. So I'm showing this on mobile, and then you might be able to, they do that. They do this process of customizing. The GrownBy suggested share gets as close as possible to the value of the share. So I think in this case, this share is valued at $45. GrownBy in this suggested share, I think they got to 3 cents under, which is pretty amazing. Often there's about $1 or $2 where, the items just kind of add up to be as close as possible, but under. A customer is welcome to buy more than the value of the share. They get the value of the share discounted, and then anything additional gets charged to the credit card that they have on file. So you can see here there's sort of a process. There is also a farm is able to limit, I don't think this happens in this cart exactly, but a farm is able to limit the number of a specific item. So it might be your very first week of asparagus harvest. You're working hard to have enough to like fill out as many boxes as possible, but you don't want anybody to get 2 bunches. You just want everyone to have 1, so you can limit that. And if that were to happen, there'd be a little pop-up that says like max items is 1 per cart. And then here you'll see that so the farmer has, or the customer has added or subtracted whichever items they want, and then they go to their cart to check out. And this is just a second option, a second place where a customer could look at this and say, oh, you know, actually I do need 2 bunches of yellow beets, I think in this case. And then once they have just done a second review, also on this screen, it tells you the value of the cart at the top, which we sort of are down at the bottom now, but anyway, and so they check out and it takes them to a checkout screen. So I'm showing this on mobile because I think that most customers are customizing their shares on mobile, because honestly, like, aren't we all just doing most of our non-work life on a telephone anymore? And so they're sitting at the breakfast table and they get the email that says customize their share, and they pop through and add some extra apples or something. And so I'm showing this on mobile, and then, but they can certainly do it on desktop as well. And then they get to, this is the bottom of the checkout screen, and you'll see here it says discounts $45. I went a little over in making this share, so and I went a little over. I'm gonna also cover my farmer's fees, and then I click on place order, and that's the whole process. And then I'll get a thanks for your order message that pops up in the next screen. That also goes, you know, there's a record of that in my customer account. There's a record of that in my email. Like, I get a thanks for your order message email. That's whether or not I've gone, like, even if I'm slightly under my amount, that's fine. I still get all that order message. I can see all the items that I've ordered in my orders page. And then, like all Grown By shoppers, you get a reminder that your pickup is tomorrow, and then a push notification when your pickup starts.
Can I chime in with a quick question here?
Please.
So if the customer has underfilled their box to say $43 and they've prepaid this $45 amount, what happens there?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We addressed this in another slide, but I can answer it now, which is that the way we have it working now is that that the farm can say, I'll give $5 of like wiggle room. So if the customer spends a little bit under, that amount rolls over into the following week in the form of farm credit. So the farmer can really set that amount as it is right now, in part because you might not want somebody to carry over $15. You might just want them to carry over a little bit, or maybe you don't want them to carry over anything at all. And you're like, you know, whatever.
Use it or lose it.
Yeah, use it or lose it. Thank you. I was trying to think of a like non-mean way of saying that. So use it or lose it's a great way. So yeah, so that's what we have right now. And I think that feels, I think for the folks who are using it right now, that feels like a good answer. Everybody has a little bit of a different opinion about the wiggle room part. And so setting that dollar amount is helpful.
Good. And then Danielle, also, the way that farm credit works in Grown By is that it would get automatically applied, or Grown By would try to apply it to a future invoice. So if someone's checking out and that customer has $5 of credit and they're checking out the next week with a $15 overage, then Grown By would kind of like pop up like and add it into this checkout process and like try to have the customer use it. The customer could choose not to use it and use a credit card or other payment method instead. But and then also, if the customer had, say you're doing installment payments and the customer had an upcoming installment that was due, Grown By would apply that farm credit directly to that installment prior to charging the card on file for the remainder of the amount.
Is there an option to have the customer pay just exactly what they get? So say we send out the base boxes at a $45 amount, but then we just let them pack it to whatever, even if it's $37, and just charge them exactly for what they get rather than have all the wiggle room stuff. Does that make sense? Is there an option to set it up that way?
There isn't, and the what were you going to say,
You
Kara?
could turn off that wiggle room. And
Right.
you can, like, we won't allow you to carry over any extra.
But I think that's a little bit different than what Danielle's asking.
Yeah, and I don't
Um,
want to bog down your presentation. We can sort
No.
of get back to this too.
No,
but-
you're good.
Okay.
It's an important question. So there isn't, and I think part of the reason that this is because Grown By has kind of a different like payment structure. Like so, Grown By's payments, right, are based on a default of pay in full, and you can turn on monthly and you can turn on weekly, right? And
Mhm.
so if a customer pays in full, then they're paying for the entire season at once, right? And if they're paying weekly or monthly, then they're still paying for the entire season, but they're doing it like on a weekly or monthly installment plan. It can include a deposit if you want it to. You can set the final installment date. Like you have some levers there. I can't remember if when I met with you, I showed you that or we talked about it, but what we don't do is kind of like I've been calling it like the Netflix like subscription payment model, where people are just like paying every single distribution and they can like turn it off and turn it on and turn it off and turn it on, which I think is a little bit closer to like where Harvey has landed, or Harvey landed as far as their payment model.
Yeah.
So does that answer that question, Danielle?
It does, yeah, and I think this definitely comes out of my experience with Harvey, where that wiggle room created we talked about this, Danny, I think when we met, but it created this really big issue reconciling the whole account at the end of the year, because that wiggle room added up to like a lot of money when people would sort of underbuild their boxes by 57 cents every time. There was no place to kind of categorize that income, and so it ended up being this like really strange reconciling thing. So it's just a little bit of a warning of like, make sure that there's like really clear methodology for reconciling that money at the end of the season, where how if there's all these different ways that it can kind of move around, it might potentially create some reporting issues. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I love that there's like all this different like flexibility built in for the farmer to kind of choose how they want to deal with it, but like just making sure it's not creating a mess at the end.
Yeah. I hope
Yeah.
that we're like that we have mostly avoided that accounting kind of like mystery by having it in farm credit, because farm credit is it's an
Category,
account,
yeah.
right? Yeah, it's
Right.
like something that at the end of the season, if you want to look at like how much farm credit is left over on a given customer's, if at any point in the season, you can always see that.
Yeah, that makes
So
sense. Yeah.
it's all a little bit more transparent than what was going on in Harvey, and and like for better or worse, I mean, I think that there might be cons to this also. The customer can really just see, like
Totally.
I have, it's $1.47 that I'm not spending here.
Yeah, and it's customer forward in that way, which I think is really important, because we definitely got a lot of feedback of people being like, why do I get charged more than I spend?
Yeah.
People didn't like that. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that it's kind of a not ideal thing to assume that people aren't going to do the math, because someone is going to do the math.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you so much. You guys answered that really very clearly. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So what are we using when we're making the suggested share? So there are a few like levers that you have as a farmer. You have the option to, with any given product that you have, upvote or downvote it, Right now, that's in the back end. So that's not something that you will see, but it's something that you will tell us and we will set for you. We can change it every week if you want it, if you would need us to. But we do have that option. So upvoting means that that product will get pushed into the shares first. Downvoting means that it will not be put into any shares. However, it will be available. So say like the example that of a farm that's using this right now is a farm that has like some high value products. They have honey and they have goat cheese. And both of those products are things that they're like getting from another producer. They don't really want those to be like, you know, pushed into the shares, but they want those to be available. So we've downvoted those products for them. And then the second layer is the customer preferences, which we kind of missed that in that video, but basically on the customization screen, there's a text-based box that the customer can click, change preferences, it pops up and they can type, I don't like tomatoes, I really like greens, I'm a vegan, and I don't eat pork. Some of those might be redundant. And Grown By will take all that information and it'll you know build a share, it'll suggest a share based on that. And that information gets carried on week to week. So each week, when the customer opens up their customization, it'll be building a share based on that. We don't want customers to just like continually like try to edit that. So after one time of editing it, each customization, we'll just say, go to the add or edit product screen, and then they can kind of add or edit things there. So the idea is not that they like sit there and they're like, like actually, I don't want bok choy. Can I have pak choy instead? We want them to do that kind of on the shopping screen. So we push them there. And then inventory amounts. So before the customization opens, you set all of your inventory up and you put the products that are going to be in the CSA into a CSA group. And we do have the way that we currently have it set up. This is maybe a bit wonky and in the weeds, but we currently have ranges. So if inventory is in a high range for a product, then it will be more preferential to put it into the share. However, that's like a tiebreaker function within our system. So it's not like if you have high inventory, that thing will definitely be in the share. It's just that is like kind of like a secondary logic that's happening. This is something that we've been talking about internally, like how do we want inventory to figure into what goes into shares? Do farmers want inventory to make any difference? And so that's something we can change. We're interested in hearing from y'all about it. And yeah, so that's that. And then another lever that you have is that you can set, Kara already mentioned this, like you have only so much asparagus or only so much strawberries, and you don't want, you know, people to be able to order all of them if they are the first person to click on their link in their email and they get in there and they're like, I'm going to have a share of strawberries. So you can set that per product. And Kara, I know you were checking about the maximum items. Did you get an answer about that?
Well, I know that they're both shown. I'm not really exactly sure how they both feature into the algorithm right now, but I think you can answer at least one of those.
Yeah, minimum is the one that's currently being used. Yeah. Okay. I'm remembering now.
All right. So like, I think the next couple of slides talk about what the different points along the course of the season and the customization and what farmers need to do. So before the season starts, the farmer builds a share product in Grown By, and this is really pretty identical to building any. It's not specific to customization necessarily. You're just building a share, and the customer would be buying a share. You're marketing and selling it. You can offer add-on shares. Those add-on shares do not need to be customizable. You know, you just have like a dozen eggs and it comes every week. That can be an add-on share. So you build that beforehand, and then you create all those standard products. So like a bunch of kale, a bag of salad, a bunch of carrots, all of that stuff. That can be imported from Harvey if you're moving over from Harvey. that's a great thing to do prior to the season, have those all set up. So it's just very easy during the course of your season to change your inventory. And then you have to meet with us to talk about details of that customization, right? What kind of window do you need to have? What kind of share values do you have versus share prices? To learn more about sort of how the nitty gritty of customization works. This, like, we really work pretty closely with farmers in that setup stage to just make sure, especially with more complex CSAs, that we've just dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's and made sure everything's really clear, and that your shares are set up correctly. Boxcar asked, is there a way to make people take a veggie? Like, a benefit of veggie CSA is sometimes being able to offload things in abundance that don't sell as well, like bok choy. Not exactly. There's a way to upvote it, right? So you can upvote it so that GrownBy would put it in all of the suggested shares, but it doesn't guarantee that they don't swap it out for something else.
And I guess, and if you limit your inventory, you limit your range of products such that they need to take this or that, then you could kind of push things towards the CSA.
So does that answer your question, Boxcar? Yeah, Anthony also asked this question about, it would look at your inventory and let you set the shares if there wasn't enough veg to make it. We're aware of that. That's okay. We know about rural internet. That's a great question, Anthony. That isn't currently a feature, but we're aware of that and really looking to, we rolled this out. That's kind of why I made that timeline slide, right? Like, we rolled this out in a hot hurry, and are actually like quite proud and happy with the way it's going. And also know that, like, every couple of weeks we're like making a little release that kind of covers things that have happened or ways that we have seen areas for improvement. And sometimes that's like, last night I was playing with it and I was like, the buttons on the plus and minus buttons need to be bigger. Like, that's an incredibly small thing, but that is the kind of thing we're kind of constantly looking at and changing as we understand how people use it. But I think we anticipate that we will roll that out on the sooner side, Anthony, because it's really helpful for certain growers. Some growers just have a lot of inventory of lots of things. Like, you might also have markets and you're like, no big deal. We know we have a lot of carrots and just set your inventory very high. But some people, they kind of want to use the inventory to influence what gets into a customer's suggested box or the total that a customer can order.
I have a slight amendment to the answer to Anthony's question. So Kara and Eric are right that there isn't like a user interface thing telling you need to add more inventory in order for these shares to work. However, when we go to open the shares each distribution, there is a check on that process. So if it comes time to open and we generally check that before. We generally check we're looking a couple of hours or an hour before the customization window opens to make sure that you're all set. And over time, as we are working with more farms and we're working with them more consistently, we'll probably be watching that process a little bit less closely, like hours ahead of time, but we've been pretty hands-on with it. But when we actually go to click the button that says that, click the button, it's an automated process. When we actually go to automate that opening, it won't actually let us open the share if there's not enough share value to fill the shares that you have. So at that point, in the future, we'll have a bunch of tooling built out around that would be alerting you and letting you know, and the visualization that says, like, you need this much and you have this much. But for now, we'll be able to communicate that with you ahead of time. So we're kind of in between, having like the ideal version of that. And also we do have some validation there that makes sure that, opening a share that doesn't have enough product to be possible for your customers to get what they need. Carrie, did you have anything else on this? I guess one other thing that I'll share about this is that we have the ability to have your share price decoupled from your share value. And so that is kind of nice if you are a farm that, say, you distribute the same general share, but some of them you're doing home delivery and some of them you're doing pickup, or some of them you're dropping at a site that has a site fee, and you want to roll that fee into your pricing. You can have, you know, a $50 share that gets delivered that has $40 worth of produce in it, and then you can have another $40 share that gets delivered that has $40 worth of produce in it. Like, we can handle that difference. So that's one of the things when we meet with you before the season, before the first customization happens, that we'll want to clarify with you for each of your share sizes and each of your different shares, what is the actual value that you want Grown By to be targeting with the customization.
And Danny said share sizes, right? You could have small, medium, and large, or, you know, family, single, whatever, also that have different values. But the same customization system.
And they could be drawing out of the same inventory. Or also, if say you were a farm that had a meat CSA and a vegetable CSA, both that you want to customize, we could also handle that. So we're all set up. You've sold all of your shares, and we're at the point where the first distribution window is opening. So before that happens, you will set your inventory. So you'll go into your products that you already have loaded up in Grown By. Maybe we imported them from Harvey, or maybe you added them manually. And you'll just make sure that your inventory is good. So maybe you do your field walk, you set your inventory. That all happens before. And then there are a couple of things that you can have. There are things that you can change depending on how you want your customers to be able to interact with your shop. So if you're a farm that is only doing CSA and you want that inventory to be only for your CSA, then you can make the CSA group that all those products are in private and have them only be able to be bought in CSA pages. But if you're a farm that also wants to allow the public to a la carte order, then you can also do that out of the same inventory. So there are just some settings that you'll need to decide on as you get things set up. And then, as I mentioned, upvoting and downvoting products. Right now, that's a quick message to us, and we can make the change very easily for you. And very soon, that'll just be in your dashboard, and you'll be able to change that at any time. Tony, this might be a second question, but do my add-on shares need to be in a different CSA than my vegetable items? Are those add-on shares customizable in some way? Or are we talking about an egg share and a fruit share and a bread share that are all just simple shares?
Yeah, they're just simple shares. We have a fruit share from a different farm. Does that need to be in a different CSA
group
than my vegetables?
No.
Okay.
No, they can be in the same CSA group.
If you did have that example of two customizable ones, like a customizable meat and customizable veg, I think in that case, they do have to be in two different CSA groups.
Okay.
So may I ask a clarifying question?
Please.
So part of what Tony's asking is we do have farmer add-ons where we collaborate with local farmers to bring those eggs or cheese or fruit. We also, some of those farms stand alone in that. For example, our fruit share farmer, they have their own CSA, and they also have what they call pickup options. So they would you could come to Home Fields if you live in that area, and you could just get a fruit share, but we don't require you. Home Fields does not require you to be a vegetable shareholder. If you'd like to just come and get fruit, and eggs or fruit and cheese, you may do that, and they have you pay through their website. So I'm not sure really how we would be handling that. It almost seems like an offline process because they wouldn't be purchasing from us. They have the option to go directly to that farmer, purchase that fruit share, and then there's a grid where the customer can check, I'd like my pickup at, Shadow Farms, or I'd like my pickup at Home Fields. I'm not sure how we handle that. And, Tony and I really haven't had an in-depth discussion about it.
Yeah, I from what I'm hearing, I think that you're right. That's like something that gets handled by the other farms, sales system, whatever, however they're doing that. And then it's just a matter of like offline logistics coordination between the different producers. Now, you could, if you wanted to, those things could be sold through Grown By, but that would be a different, then you'd have to be paying them out for it and that kind of thing. So it sounds like the way that you have it is probably just a separate system that doesn't really talk with Grown By, would be my guess. But I'm happy to talk about it. We can talk about it more in depth if there are more details there.
All right. And then after the customization window closes, so you've told us when you want the customization window to close, we make that closes whenever you say. And then customers who have not customized will have a share generated for them by Grown By, and they'll get that same like, thanks for your order message. And they will, hold on a second. Sorry. Today is Lunar New Year and my kids are home, even though I have this webinar scheduled. Sorry. So anybody who doesn't customize will have that share generated for them. That still shows up on your harvest lists and on your labels exactly the same as if they had customized. You will pull your harvest list when you need to start harvesting. It's called a daily summary on the distributions tab. And then also most farmers who are doing customization are printing labels. So we'll talk more about labels in a little bit, but that's on the sign-in sheet part of the distributions tab, and you pack your boxes. So that has been going fairly smoothly, that process for the farms who have been using Grown By's customized shares.
So here's some more like wonky details for you. So I already mentioned the first bullet point. So I'll go to vacation weeks. Vacation weeks are something that exist in Grown By as a means of people opting out of distribution for a distribution or more than one distribution. You set how many vacation weeks you want to allow, which could be 0. And when they claim a vacation week, they get, again, farm credit that can be used. And different farms have different policies around this, right? Like some farms have, if you claim a vacation week, then you have to use it immediately for a next distribution. Or, some farms don't mind and they allow that farm credit to just be used whenever it gets used, which could be like the next year. And so just to say that vacation weeks, which is a feature, for those who are already using Grown By, it's no different in customized shares than it is in any of our other primary shares. And we already mentioned that we can have multiple shares, multiple sizes. Yeah, I think we already talked about all these things. Go ahead, Kara.
I'll add that, if a customer has claimed a vacation week for that week, they do not get the email to customize their share or any email notifications.
Right. And the farmer, when they claim their vacation, which is something that they can do or you could do for them, hopefully they do it, then there will be an email that you get that lets you know that they're on the yes page. So that's easy. So they'll be separate. We should talk about what makes sense for your schedules and your locations and your products, but the answer is yes. It's totally possible and easy to do, and you can sign up for all 4. We have a farm right now who's taking sign up for spring, summer, fall, and winter, which are all going to be customized shares. but they're all separate products and grown by. So yeah, let's just talk about exactly what you need, and we'll help you set it up.
I'll also say we've been working with Welcome Table Farm in Walla Walla. I just take any chance I can to say Walla Walla, Washington. But they have both customizable shares and Farmer's Choice shares that they're selling at the same time. So if also you wanted to add that level of complexity, we're here for that. All right, so about labels. So we support labels in various sizes and either sheets or rolls. This is what they look like right now. They have this location nickname at the top. So we see that it's a 4-character nickname. Letters, I think. They're only allowed to be letters. And that is a way of kind of very quickly capturing these boxes in this pile go to this location. These boxes in this pile go to this other location. It's easy, check in a truck or cooler. Products with more than one quantity. So in this case, these bunches of carrots appear in bold. These are optimized to be printed also on a thermal printer, so they're black and white. I mean, your logos are in color, but we have imagined that many people are printing them in black and white, so bold was how we went that way. And it has your logo and ours on the bottom. If you will have labels that are printed for delivery, the customer's address and delivery instructions, which they can include, are in the top right where it says pickup here. And these are optimized currently to print up to, you can change the number of items per label up to 7. We've had some feedback about that, and so that may change to be a higher number, but that's the number we're at right now. So you may have you may end up with 2 labels per order if you have a larger sized share. We had a great call last week about in which we went kind of in depth on labels. So if you weren't here for that, you could watch it if you wanted to hear that conversation. I think we have had a lot of feedback on these, and we've been kind of changing them as we go to incorporate things that farmers need to make the packing process quicker and smoother, and to make the delivery and drop-off process smoother. So there's an article about how to print labels there, and that we can put in the chat. And is there anything I'm missing, Danny?
I feel like Danielle is probably going to ask about the weighted order on labels.
We've heard that.
And so currently it isn't weighted, it's alphabetized, and I don't know exactly when we're going to be able to make that change, but at the moment it's alphabetized.
Yeah, and then the other piece is alignment with the harvest list, right? Or we had it as the pick list. There was a report we were able to pull that's like pick list, and that would be weighted. And then the labels were printed in that same exact order, so we could set up our pack line and have everything be in order.
Thanks for saying that. I didn't remember that detail about it. Yeah, about the pick list. So that's good to remember. Yeah, I guess the other thing that I'll say about labels is that if there are multiple orders, there will be multiple labels. If there are more than 7 products in one order, then there will be multiple labels, and they will have a 1 of 2, 1 of 3, whatever on the top. It's right next to the it's like in this zone. Henry, I'm just reading your question here. Is there a way for the labels to show items that aren't going in the boxes? Fresh bread. So is that is it an add-on share that customer would have? Add-ons can get listed on the labels, yes. They would be actually on a separate label because it's a separate order, so you'd end up with 2 labels for that customer. Henry, did I answer that question? or no, I didn't answer the question. What is the scenario? Is it something that's been ordered on Grown By, or just something that you're adding to someone's box?
I think maybe
It's
what,
something.
go ahead, Henry.
Yeah. No. Hi, everybody.
Okay.
In our case, it's items that we specifically designate that don't get packed by the crew, but get added on the way. So people have ordered them as part of their order, and we need to designate them to be basically delivered with the box, but not in the box.
If they were ordered on Grown By, then they could totally be on the label. Or they might be on a separate label if it's a separate order.
But there's no way to
But-
pull them off of that label. So for instance, Henry, I'm picturing like one of the options in this fake share that I made for the video was a dried flower bouquet. So there's lots of reasons you might not want to put that in the actual box, but there's not a way to show that it is not in the actual box, except to perhaps, there's no way to do that in Grown By. I think if I were a farmer, I would imagine like highlighting the thing on the box and having a place in
Right.
the front where all the dried flower bouquets are that you're pulling out as you do the deliveries. Or that also highlights it for the customer to pick up, but there's not a way to pull it off the label.
Does that answer your question, Henry? Yes. Awesome. Labels. I'll just reiterate, like, this is our first pass on labels, and I think that there are probably ways that we can make them better. And so please keep sharing the feedback with us. You're good, no worries. Go ahead, Tony.
This is a quick question. If someone has a large share and they get like 3 labels because they have that many vegetables, does it say like 1 of 3, 2 of 3, 3 of 3 in their name?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah. And I the change of taking this from 7 to 10 as the max option is in the works. So I do think that we're going to have the ability to put more. Some farmers don't want that. Some farmers are like, this is too small. I can't read this if it's 10 or more products. So of course, as always, we're balancing, the desires and needs of different farmers with those conversations. But it's nice as it is that you can select the number right now between 1 and 7 of products per label.
Oh, Maverine. Am I saying that right? Are there any farms offering customizable shares with self-service distribution so the farmers don't have to pack the orders? I don't know if there are any farmers we have talked to that are doing it quite like that. I know that River Queen Greens, who's a member owner of Grown By in New Orleans, sells shares, and that they have like a self-service where they have only an on-farm pickup, and they just have everything that they've harvested out, and customers can choose what they want. So it's sort of a it's like a free choice. So that is a thing I know is happening through Grown By. I think that I don't see any reason why that wouldn't work. I'm a big fan personally of a self-serve pickup, and like market style, we often call it, where stuff is in the bins. And I think in that case, you may want to use, so we have this label option, right? But the information on the labels is a lot of the same information that's in a packing sheet. So you can still print those on regular sized paper. And so I think if everybody had their packing sheet, they would be able to pack their share themselves.
Yeah, I could envision, you could do it as a label, or you could do it as a full sheet, but I can envision like having a table at the beginning of your distribution and like having all of these labels out on the table, and the person just finds their label, grabs their box or brings their bag or whatever, and then packs. I could totally see that working. I love that idea, actually. Anything, whatever, there's a balance, but like when I hear about farms who are like doing a lot of pick your own, I'm always intrigued by that. Of course there's pros and cons to having people in your fields, but it's nice when you can get your customers to do some of the labor of farming?
I once talked to a Belgian farmer who said that he had to only pick your own CSA, so he didn't harvest anything. And he said he just had a hammock where he laid while all of his members came to the farm, and he was like there in case they needed anything. And there's a bit intricate flag system, but I thought that sounded pretty awesome. When I farmed, we had no hammock time. Okay, so yeah, we're here to answer questions for you at any point, but also right now we're here if you have questions about what we've talked about today, or things that have been coming up for you in sort of working through your customized CSA plans for this season.
Are you doing anything for CSA week in February in terms of marketing support or collaborative marketing?
That's a great question. It's not necessarily, Eric might have an answer to that question. It's not necessarily Kara and my like areas within Grown By. We have a marketing person, Maggie, who does a lot of that, and then Eric also does some of that. Eric, do you know?
What would you be looking for, Allison? What would you want, or what would any of you want as farmers during CSA week?
Well, Kara, and that's right back at you. That's a great question. I don't really have it fully formed. I do have a marketing background, so I kind of look at that all the time. I have a lens, and I think, that just dating back to Harvey, I think we are at maybe the 10-year anniversary of Harvey setting that CSA week and trying to push that out. And I think it's kind of quiet, and maybe we aren't doing enough collaboratively to work together to push that out from our local markets. We have a great relationship with Lemon Street Market. We don't have a competitive relationship. It's a market in the city you can walk to or bus to. Like how could we collaborate, whether it's like an infograph that gets and a QR code that gets pushed out that drives people to certain locations? I don't really have a fully formed idea.
So what we are doing, and what is happening both nationally and what we are doing at Grown By, is that there's an amazing organization that all of you should know about called the CSA Innovations Network. Eric is posting it here, and they are partnering with us and other sort of support TA providers around the country to have some materials. Some of those materials are farmer facing, so why you might want to do a CSA, and some of them are customer facing that you could use with customers. So that information is out there, and I would really encourage you to follow them on Instagram or wherever you do your following, in an extra tab on your browser. That's where I do most of my following. But I think that they'll have a lot of good materials during CSA week, and some of those will be provided by us. The other thing is we do have like promotion options within Grown By. So it's not a thing we're talking about today much, but Eric can probably pull up our promotions article and put it in the chat. Eric's quick about stuff like that. And you may say, like, for CSA week, we have 10% off if you sign up this week, or you may run your own promotion for customers during that week if you want, and that's a way you can promote. Our promotions are it's a pretty full featured option, so you can like set a expiration date if you only want it to be available during this week, and stuff like that. So it may be that you want to run your own kind of special, or if you just want to have some materials that you didn't have to worry about creating, I would say watch us, but also CSA Innovations Network.
Other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. On Harvey, there was always a way to add, so there was this, the shortage feature, which we didn't really use for shortages much, but used it to put, like, if you put in that you had a shortage, you could add a note about a product.
Oh.
And that would add, like, in the email that they got with the list of products, it would tell the customers like, we used it mostly for like, there's, bug bites on the cucumbers this week, make sure you use them up quick or whatever, like just a note on a specific product for that week to like tell the customers. Is there any sort of feature like that?
There isn't exactly that. And I remember that feature from Harvey. There isn't exactly that. There are a couple of things that are different than that you could use to communicate with your customers. There's messages, but that's on a one-on-one basis with customers. And then there's also the ability to pull a list of emails out of Grown By for a specific, for people who are getting a specific share on a specific date, at a specific location even, right? And so you could message them separately, but it's nothing quite as integrated as what you're describing, Becky. So yeah, it's something for us to keep our eye on as a potential feature to add down the road. It's a smart idea.
Yeah. There are the notes field in schedules is also the other place, which I think is like a less perfect place to put it, because then you would have to edit it for all your schedules.
I mean, for that matter, you could use the missed pickup message or the new order message, which are two fields within the CSA group. Again, not as integrated as saying this is related to a specific product, but those are a couple of places where you can communicate with customers on a weekly basis, because those messages go into the emails that they get. You just have to remember to change them for the next week.
Can you tell us, Park Ridge or anybody else here who is a Harvey user, how you used those shortages and like what you liked or didn't like about it, that message? Sorry, I know we're 2 minutes over time. I should have been looking at that clock. But if you have a chance, will you tell us that?
Yeah, so we used it, like sometimes it was like, the list said you were getting 6 tomatoes this week, and we'd be like, oops, sorry, we put 12 in your box because we have a ton of extra. And it would only go, like it would go in their email that they got like on the day of pickup that morning, or like, so it'd be the like pickup reminder email. And it would, give them that message, but only to the customers that were getting that item.
Yeah.
So like, attached to the item. And you could use it if you had a shortage. Like if you were like, we are short on cucumbers this week, so you're getting zucchini instead, or, something like that. That was the intended purpose, I think, originally. But we used it more for like, to give a message about a specific product to the customers. If we, had something to say about something.
Right. How many days between entering inventory and when the customization closes for customers, or is this something that can be customized? Yeah, that is totally customized by you. So you will tell us, I'm distributing on Friday and I harvest on Wednesday and Thursday. So I need my harvest list by Tuesday night. So I'm going to open my customization at Sunday at noon, and I'm going to close it Tuesday at 8. And you just have to make sure that before Sunday at noon, you've entered the inventory.
And if you had more than, this is a question for you, Danny, actually.
Yeah.
If you have, so say you have a Tuesday harvest for what, say if you have a Wednesday delivery and you have a Sunday delivery, a Saturday delivery, you could have 2 different customization windows.
You could have 2 different customization windows. You would probably want to set them up as, I believe that they would want to be set up as separate products.
Yeah. Yeah.
Separate share products that get purchased separately. But they could work off of the same, they could probably, I believe, depending on whether they overlap in time or not, they could be part of the same CSA group. If they overlap in time, then they might have to be separate CSA groups, which gets a little bit trickier.
But we also have a number of CSA.
This is a very fun hypothetical.
Right. We also, I don't think we've had that yet. We haven't.
No, we haven't.
like Friday and Saturday distributions, and then they just are using the same customization window.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
So I didn't mean to ask a hard hitting question.
No, it's it's good. I just don't think that I actually know the answer entirely. Other questions? Cool.
Danny, inquiring minds want to know. I love your sweater, but I can't figure out flowers, peppers,
Flowers.
flowers. Like,
Yeah. Flowers.
that's what was my first thought. And then I started to go down, wait, are they peppers with green stems? So
That would be fun though. I
be
probably would have wanted that sweater too. Yeah.
yeah, I love it.
Thank
you
you.
so much. This was really helpful.
Great.
Tony and Andrew, Tony's really kept me in the loop, and we've been very happy with what we've heard. And this even makes me more, I feel more in touch with some of the back end and what it looks like, what kind of controls and choices does the farmer have. Thank you so much. It was great to meet everybody.
Yeah. Thanks so much for joining us. And please, I know that you all have a kind of larger organization. Please share this presentation with other people on your team. Share it with people, your people who you're working with at your farm. Thanks, Tony. And just let us know as we get further into this, how we can help. So, all right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.
Take care.